We're at the Experiential Learning Colloquium for the 2022-23 academic year. I just also wanted to mention that the Experiential Learning Network at UW has been around since 2008, remarkably, and the EL Fund has been around since 2012-2013. So this past round of projects would have marked 10 years of the fund being in place to provide resources for experiential learning courses and project initiatives here at UW. Very much before concepts like work-integrated learning and community-based hands-on learning were kind of more common practice and commonplace in universities. So I think that's something to be proud of. And yeah, this particular colloquium will highlight some of the kinds of work and projects being done by faculty and students in an experiential hands-on learning capacity, and will hopefully provide some insight into what experiential learning can look like out of different departments and faculties at UW. So yeah, as you can see, we have 6 different presenter groups today. Each team will have maybe 8-10 minutes to talk about their project, and then there will be time for a couple of questions or comments after each team presents. So our first presenters are Dr. Sherilyn Skwarchuk and Jessica Shapiro, and they will be talking about developing communication strategies to raise awareness for children's literacy and numeracy skills, and they are out of the education department. Come on up. Yeah, you can unshare that. Thanks.
Oh, good. We're at the end. Okay, we're done, Jessica. There we go?
Yep.
Okay.
Awesome.
So, am I on the camera? Oh, I guess I can't really see. Hello, everyone there out there in TV land. I'm Sherilyn Skwarchuk, and this is my student, Jessica Shapiro. And we're going to be presenting on developing communication strategies to raise awareness for children's literacy and numeracy skills. So I'm going to talk first, and then Jessica will talk, and then I'll finish off.
So I wanted to ask you, did you want to share your screen to the Zoom? I think it's just loaded off of the PowerPoint. Is it there? Yeah. No, I'm not sure what this is doing.
Oh, I might have been disabled.
Oh, that's okay.
Share.
Oh,
Sorry
okay.
about
No,
that.
that's okay.
All this technology.
I know. No, I just didn't want to ruin your presentation.
Yeah, right. You made us really nervous.
Yeah. Okay, that should be good. Yeah.
So thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I just wanted to start with a brief land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that we are gathered on ancestral lands on Treaty 1 territory. These lands are the heartland of the Métis people. We acknowledge that our water is sourced from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation, and our power is sourced from Treaty 5 territory. And I also wanted to take this opportunity to thank the UW Experiential Learning Fund for the opportunity to offer these assessments in my class this term. The projects that happened could not have happened without this support. So for that, we're very grateful. And we hope that it will generate further learning across early childhood in Manitoba. That's great. Yeah. There we are. All right, next. So, in case you don't already know, the Toy Box is a community developed project that supports caregivers. That could include parents, educators, anybody who is in the realm of young children aged 2 to 8 years. And we suggest free, engaging, accessible strategies that are evidence-based, that are in the area of numbers, letters, and well-being. And our website there is toyboxmanitoba.ca, and our Facebook is #toyboxmanitoba. And so if you are interested in supporting us, that helps with our funding to have likes. Okay. So just to get started, this was my thinking with the Toy Box project. I was running this project in communities around Manitoba and connecting educators and parents and trying to provide learning experiences that just had the right amount of information, not too hard, not too easy, for families. And what we learned is that parents are happy to do the activities, but materials for supporting the work is always in high demand. So sometimes I assumed that, you know, in your house you would have access to magazines and you would have access to rulers and different things, but it depends on the communities that we're in, and also the time factor that it takes parents to find those materials. So we're finding that it's actually better if we provide the materials together with the project. And so you can see a few examples on this screen of materials that we have created, including a set of playing cards and a hundreds chart based on our academic research. So I was also teaching a literacy numeracy course last January, and it was full of early childhood educators from across Manitoba. So this was a great opportunity to link the Toy Box project with the course, although of course I had to be careful because I couldn't just have students make things for my own project. So there always had to be an option for something else, with myself being the instructor. So what we were trying to do is combine theory and research in early childhood education by also encouraging the development of appropriate materials that are evidence-based. So when you look at some of the materials that are marketed for young children, I'm sure you can find, the parents in the audience here can find examples of things that are just badly designed and inappropriate. And I'm seeing smiling faces, so I'm sure you get that. So our project was to try and make sure that we could have these materials available, and also from people that are across Manitoba, they're developing the materials that they think their community would use, along with the support of the Toy Box team. So in this class, community members from Toy Box who have other jobs and so forth, with a vested interest in early childhood, were supporting the project with their expertise and helping students create these materials. Okay.
All right, so hello, my name is Jessica Shapiro, and I'm just going to be speaking about my reflection and experience in Dr. Skwarchuk's course. So since I'm in my final year, I only have a few courses left of my Bachelor of Arts honors degree in psychology, and I wanted to choose courses based on its relevance and importance to my future career in school psychology. I chose to take the Early Literacy and Numeracy course because I wanted to experience real-life applications of psychology in early development. This course provided me with the opportunity to apply my learning to real-life experiences through the large course assignments. Overall, I gained experiential learning, which is essential as I progressed towards becoming a school psychologist. Also, another aspect of the course that encouraged experiential learning was being in a class with diverse learners. One student disclosed having a learning disability. Not only did I learn from this student, but I was also able to support diverse learners in the class by note-taking each lecture and having these notes accessible to all students on our Nexus page. So the two main assignments in the course are the infographic assignment and the application assignment, which provided quality experiential learning and collaboration with the Toy Box project to provide evidence-based materials and to support caregivers. Next slide. So the infographic assignment encouraged the dissemination of research findings to caregivers in preschool and kindergarten settings. So in my infographic, I chose to use the research from the course book titled Reading for Our Lives, a Literacy Action Plan for Birth to 6 by SMART, published in 2022, to share the knowledge of teaching letter names in an easy, accessible way. I was able to collaborate with the Toy Box graphics team to achieve an infographic that would not only be visually appealing, but that would benefit caregivers and educators by disseminating evidence-based research. So moving on to the application assignment. The goal of this assignment was to demonstrate and support learning of the literacy and numeracy concept, as well as to apply the knowledge gained in the course to create an activity that would support literacy or numeracy skills. Since my interest is in early literacy development, I created a board game titled The Lucky Leprechaun to support development in letter knowledge, letter identification, phonological awareness, and vocabulary skills, which are essential skills for early literacy development. Using an engaging interactive game, children aged 3 to 4 years old can have fun while growing their literacy skills. I was able to apply my knowledge on literacy by developing an activity rich in learning goals for children. The goal of the game is to go across the St. Patrick's Day rainbow to get to the pot of gold while spelling leprechaun. The child must spin the letter spinning wheel to land on a letter to find on the game board to then see which color card to pick up, with a green circle corresponding to phonological awareness cards and an orange circle corresponding to vocabulary cards. Then the child will answer the question on the card and spin again. The game can be repeated to use all the letters and answer all the cards. This is the game board with the green phonological awareness circles and orange vocabulary circles with letters that spell leprechaun to match the spinner. This is the letter spinning wheel that the child will spin to see which letter to find on the game board. In order to adapt the game to be successful for diverse learners, the adult must use scaffolding techniques and monitor the child during the game to assess the learning of the child to observe if additional challenges or further guidance is needed, such as using beginner or intermediate cards. The child can begin with the intermediate cards and work their way up to intermediate, or just use intermediate cards if beginner exceeds their capabilities. So when members of Toybox Manitoba came to the class to assist us with creating our application assignments, Sarah, a community member and teacher that participates in Toybox, encouraged and discussed the importance of adapting my game for diverse learners. She emphasized the salience of including children that may have limited knowledge and to those who may be excelling in early literacy skills and need to progress to the next step. The inclusion of those with limited literacy knowledge and those gifted in literacy is essential to creating learning goals for all preschool children. One suggestion that Sarah provided was to begin with an oral assessment to identify where the child is at before beginning the game. So for example, if the child has limited letter knowledge, begin learning and identifying the letters on the spinner, then match the letters to the game board. Starting with letter knowledge and letter identification will allow for the activity to be successful for all children. As well, applying my game to my future career, kindergarten teachers can play this game with their students to assess if a child has not mastered the early literacy concepts and needs additional help, or shows signs of needing to be formally assessed and be provided with interventions by a school psychologist. Having the child exposed to letter identification, phonological awareness, and vocabulary questions in beginner and intermediate levels provides an essential learning opportunity for children to grasp the salient foundational literacy skills required in preschool. This assignment encouraged reflecting on my knowledge on literacy to develop an activity that is rich in early literacy learning goals for children and that is adaptable for diverse learners to be successful with the activity. What is unique about this course is that my work is not just an assignment for a course credit. These assignments are going to be provided to caregivers to support children's learning experiences. Also, I get the opportunity to be an author on the Toybox project, which will go on my resume. So the application of knowledge and disseminating evidence-based research does not usually occur until later on in school, such as practicum and masters. So this course gave me an opportunity to work with the University of Winnipeg Student Association's daycare to focus on my skills and aspirations of becoming a school psychologist. And I was able to gain a sense of what it would be like working with children in a school psychologist role. Therefore, the experiential learning is unique to this course out of all the courses I've taken in the past 5 years. I feel fortunate to have had the practical experience that put the textbooks and course concepts into hands-on learning. Also, being able to provide my infographic and board game to caregivers to support learning and development is an amazing experience. I'm really looking forward to continuing my work with Toybox as a research assistant and doing a reading and research course this summer with Dr. Skwarchuk. I want to thank the EL Fund for the opportunity to have experiential learning in this course, which helped me learn more about my future goals and aspirations of becoming a school psychologist.
Okay, and then I'll just finish off in terms of my expectations. So these are my reflections on the course. So I wanted to say first off that I had ambitious course goals. I thought I was going to get these amazing materials from every single student in the class and that they would be perfectly written and marketed to be open and available for Toybox use. And I could never have ever gotten around to every single student and given them the depth of knowledge that they would need to say create a game in this format. A lot of the students needed that individual help, and so the Toybox members were available to do that. And they also had the experiences that I don't have. For example, I'm not a teacher, so having that teacher on board to say, oh, and this is how I would use this in my class was really helpful. However, we had a very diverse class. It was online. There was remote learning in the sense that the participants were from across Manitoba, Indigenous, and there were quite a few tragedies within the course that happened. So we were dealing with not only a range of learning needs, but a range of just community supports that were needed. And so the students learned in ways that I did not expect, and by working together and collaborating, learned about each other. So the EL funds, I can honestly and safely say that without this funding, some of the students would not have passed the course. So your funding and the decision on the funding allowed people to pass the course. Toy Box community members supported the project both during class time and outside of class time. Each group of students was given a mentor, and then they worked with that person to provide information. And I'm just hopeful that we have the opportunity to try it again, because I know I've learned from this experience on how to make this opportunity even better. We have a lot of Toy Box activities, but it's the materials now that are going to be worth developing. So thank you again for listening and for your support.
Thank you. It's always interesting to hear about kind of the ongoing developments and innovations coming out of the Toy Box initiative. Does anyone have any questions for Shaylin and Jessica? Any comments?
It's nice to see you all in person. I'm excited to, because I see your names all the time on UW News and whatnot doing similar work. So it's really cool to see you.
I feel like this was so well explained that folks have no questions.
Okay, that's okay.
So yeah, thank you so much. Our next presenter is Dr. Patricia Fitzpatrick out of the Geography Department, and she will be talking about her environmental science internship. Just grab it off of my desktop there. Give me a shout if you can't find it. Doesn't want to go. Does not want to go. No. Maybe the one that says Fitzpatrick underneath. No, we can maybe stop share and then reshare. It doesn't want to let me. Yes, cool. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate the last presentation and how we started with a land acknowledgement, because that's something I often do in my classes to reflect on what's going on in the world and think about our relationship with the land. So what I'm presenting about today is an internship course that it was first time offered. It's an experimental course that is cross-listed between geography and the Department of Environmental Studies and Sciences. So the origin of this course is the Department of Geography. We were going through some curriculum refreshment, and yet again, we heard, oh, it'd be great if we had an internship course, but oh, it takes a lot of time and effort to organize it. I had been on the Senate Curriculum Committee for a year at that point in time and thought, okay, well, I did co-op at University of Waterloo, so let's give this a go. And so the department said, great, gave me approval, and we have an experimental course, again, cross-listed with environmental studies and sciences. So because I'm on the curriculum committee and chair for 2 years, I have access to a lot of curriculum information, which you have access to as well. I just know how to find it. And I'd seen a lot of internship courses over the past few years. So I knew what was happening. What I could find out definitively is at the time of proposal, there were 18 departments that had internship courses, and we did not. So there was good reason to have one. In terms of design, there's a wide range of design for how you want to run an internship course. Some people place students. Students are required to complete projects. some people place students with organizations, and they may be working in an office setting. Some setups are such that if the project isn't done by the student, the obligation rests with the instructor, which was a model I decided I did not want to do after some great advice. So what I decided to do was to treat this like the co-op program at the University of Waterloo, to be perfectly frank. I went to environmental organizations and I had them write a job description. If you had a co-op student for 30 hours in the semester, what would they do? So on the screen, if you want to read, there's the job description from the Lake Winnipeg Foundation. The assessment would be pass-fail, so students would apply for the jobs. And then once they were matched, so they would have to apply for the job, and the organization would have to say yes. Once they were matched, then the assessment was based on them writing a learning contract, so they set their own objectives about what they wanted to learn. They would have a midterm evaluation. They would have a final evaluation, making sure that things were still going well. And they would be involved in a mini conference, so either a presentation or a poster at an event, which was held in March, and then a social media post, which they could give permission for us to share or not, as advertising for the next time around. I work with a lot of environmental non-governmental organizations, so encouraging people to write descriptions was not that difficult. I'm on the board, or have been on the board of, I don't know, I want to say 4 of these groups, and just said, please do this. And they did. So we ended up having 7 placements. We ended up having 5 students apply, and all of them matched with most of them matched with their first choice. There was a little bit of competition with one organization, so somebody got their second choice. Again, then in terms of supporting material, we had career services come during the information events to help them write their resume and do their cover letter, things that students said they'd never had to do before, particularly in this specific an environment where they were applying their job skills. And then I spoke with other people who ran internships about what to put on the Nexus site. So we were clear to have information about workplace health and safety. We had respectful working and learning environment procedures, sexual violence policies, the accessibility hub, insurance information. This was for most of the students who took the course, the first time they'd been not in a job setting, because they all have jobs, but in a professional setting where they're applying their geography or environmental study skills. And so it was an opportunity. And it's been a long time since I've been in the job market, but I was reminded of that when we met together before, they went off into the world. And I had questions like, what do I wear to work? What's appropriate? What's not? And I went, oh yeah, okay, I remember. Let's go back 30 years. So course evaluation, not really useful. So I made my own. I made an evaluation for students. I made an evaluation for organizations. The students, every student filled out the evaluation. The organizations, 3 out of the 5 did. Some things that I found really interesting were the quotes. So things that students really appreciated was we used the money from the Experiential Learning Fund as honoraria for the students and for the not-for-profit organizations. So we have to recognize that supervising a new employee, a student, takes a lot of time and effort, and a lot of not-for-profits don't have any money and are working like crazy. So they got an honorarium, and 3 of the 5 organizations accepted that honorarium. Some organizations said, what would you do if we don't take that money? I said, I'd just allocate it amongst the students. They said, great, do it. So students got more money in the honorarium. But what the students were telling us is that without this being a course credit, they could not have done this course. Because again, they were still working 2 or 3 jobs. They had a full course load. This being a course credit made it possible for them to get job experience. And at least 2 of the 5 students had an opportunity to continue on in their placement with an actual paid employment, either short-term contract or summer employment. Other highlights, turns out they like the learning contract idea of setting expectations, most of them. They love the honorarium. They loved that each placement was unique and they could apply. I mean, there were people working in a lab. There were people advocating to the city of Winnipeg. The host organizations all said they would participate again. They had a lot of, they want students. They do want to work with students. They appreciated the honorarium, some of them. They like the timing. I like the comment at the bottom. It was nice to have some new energy. And because this is a reflection period, what would I do differently? So if this was organized again, I think I have to think more about advertising to students. We at the department just got a Discord server, so I think that that will be a better way to make sure that people in geography and environmental studies and sciences are aware of the course if it's offered again. The placement time that they had to spend in their placement was 30 hours. The students liked the 30 hours. One of the organizations said 30 hours was a little bit short. I know at least 2 students worked overtime, so I'm thinking next time if we run it again, it will be 40 hours placement. Importantly, maintaining funding for students and for organizations is critically important. We shouldn't be perpetuating free labor by students. So I realize it's a course credit, but giving some money to reflect their investment is important, just like it's important to compensate organizations who are taking the time to supervise our students. So a big thank you to the Experiential Learning Fund and Nyala specifically, who was a great sounding board. Sarah Heath provided me with immense background experience from her internship course. Kevin Smith did workplace health and safety. Deanna England came in and helped our students with cover letters and resumes. And my departments, particularly Chris Storie, who was fighting for this course to go ahead, even though there were only 5 students. And the organizations who were involved and the students who chose to participate. We did not record the presentation workshop because of differing abilities and people's comfort level with being online. But I really wish I could because they had a great time and learned a lot. Thank you.
Of your students, so I could see what they were working on.
My pleasure.
Anyone have any questions or comments?
I think I heard at the beginning that you didn't want a faculty member to be in charge of the supervision, and that instead you went to the Waterloo model. Was that, is that right or no?
No. Well, the Waterloo model, where the organization wrote a job description about what they would have the students do.
Okay.
And when I was in co-op at Waterloo, all the employers wrote job descriptions and we applied. So that's the model that I wanted, where the students applied for a specific job description. My role was to facilitate interaction, although I didn't have to because, again, students are adults, but this was their first job experience. So sometimes they had questions to me about the work environment. What I was trying to say is some internships have students required to do some big deliverable as part of the learning contract. And I didn't want to have a big deliverable that I would be responsible for if something happened. So I wanted to avoid that.
Okay. And so as an instructor, you decide the pass-fail for each student enrolled in the course?
Yes, in consultation with the supervisor. So the assessment had the learning contract. There was a midterm evaluation where I had them keep an hours log so they didn't get behind in their time. And I also contacted the organization to find out how it was going, to troubleshoot if there were any problems. Thank goodness there were none. The final evaluation was, again, me contacting the organization and the student to ask how things were going, read their hours log. And then there was the presentation and the social media post. So yeah, I was in charge of evaluation, but I did it in concert with their supervisors at their organizations.
Great, thank you.
How did you get the organizations to sign up, or how did the organizations know that the class was available?
I'm really active in the environmental community, and so 6 of the 7 organizations I'm actively involved with, and I just said, please take my student, please design something. And one was a reference for a recommendation from a colleague in the department who set us together. We had a meeting in September to talk about, you know, the process, what I was looking for, what they could expect, the 30 hours, the honorarium, the job description, models of how to do that. But again, I know the people. And I know about 4 more, so if it runs again, we could add more.
I was just gonna say, I think it's a blessing that you only had 5 students to start off with, because that type of design is a lot of work. And it, you know, for both the professor and the organization. And we have that kind of practicum going in developmental studies right now. And we ramped ours up, and I'm just giving you some advice to be careful at how fast you ramp them up. And maybe if you have students coming into the course again, if people are going to hear about it and want to do it, and just be careful like who you take. And very finally, we found that 15 was like a maximum number. Yeah.
I would hope we'd never get to 15. Yeah. I've heard that 10 is manageable, but I don't know how that works from a faculty level. I also would love it to be competitive, right? I mean, not to say I want to reject students, but I would like, there was such favorable feedback that it could potentially be something that students look forward to and work on. And I think that will make sure that they maintain, I mean, geography students, environmental study students are extremely professional, and I love our students. I'd like to maintain that and not have to worry about other issues that might arise. So yes, so I think 10 is probably good, but we'll see. We'll see if we run it again.
I hope you do. It sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure, everything's okay up here. Yeah. All right, so our next presenters are Dr. Rob Pryce and Alex Blackland from kinesiology, and they are going to talk about open education experiential learning in biomechanics. Just grab the issues.
Yeah. Did you pause the sharing, or is it?
No, I think it should still be. Let's see what it says.
That look about right?
So I feel like you are better at this than I am, but
Well, I launched it and I went to share screen.
it says you are screen sharing, so I think you're good.
It's recording?
Right. Yeah, thank you.
Well, thanks everybody for having us out. So the project that Alex and I worked on addresses a pretty common problem in my area of kinesiology, or in biomechanics. And in biomechanics, students learn about forces and motion and human movement. However, if you ask a typical undergrad kinesiology student, biomechanics probably doesn't come to the top of the list of their favorite areas to study. And I've reflected on this for a few years, and I think there's several reasons for it. Number one, biomechanics has a perception of being pretty math heavy. So a lot of students will either get intimidated or lost by some of the sort of basic math skills that we use to navigate the concepts in biomechanics. Most of our traditional labs or experiential learning use fairly specialized and expensive equipment, wonderful tools to use in research, but not so great for everybody else that's not in a research environment. And then lastly, probably the most concerning one to me is when I hear students make comments like, well, when am I ever going to use this stuff? Or why am I even enrolling in this course? For this project, we had a couple goals. Number one, we wanted to make the experiential learning a little bit more approachable for our students. And then we also wanted to make it a little bit more relevant to our students. And so we did this by designing 6 experiential learning modules that shifted the focus on how students use biomechanics in different professions involved in kinesiology. And then to help with accessibility, we wanted to publish this as an open educational resource. This targets mostly our 3rd year kinesiology students, and was supported by both the experiential learning funding here and some complementary funding from Campus Manitoba. Just a little bit about the project. We decided to publish this on the Pressbooks platform, which is a huge directory of open educational resources available online. And to give you a little bit of an idea about what we did, the idea was to take a handful of our conventional sort of topics and experiences in biomechanics, which you can see on the left under modules. These are things like motion analysis and gait assessment and so on, and shift the emphasis towards the application and practice. So students will learn how to do things like use GPS or smartphones to carry out motion analysis, or understand how Fitbits and all of those other devices can measure physical activity, sleep, and sedentary behavior, because those are the types of things that our students are going to be using when they leave their undergrad and move into a kinesiology profession. Whoops, I'll turn things over to Alex, and she can tell us a little bit more about what the deliverables actually looked like.
Perfect. So this Introduction to Biomechanics textbook was published as an open access resource on the Pressbooks platform. We had adapted it from a college physics text that was already available and made modifications such as making examples human-based instead of particle-based or vehicle-based, for example, and making some explanations a little clearer. So currently it has 9 chapters separated into 91 sections, with the last chapter being the experiential learning lab section. We are planning to have the 6 different lab modules that go over different aspects of motion analysis or physical activity monitoring and performance. Each lab will include some research articles or web pages that link to more in-depth understanding of the topics, as well as an activity to perform, followed by some questions pertaining to the readings and or the activity they are to complete. The lab we are currently working on is the segmental motion analysis lab using Canovia, which is also an open access video analysis software and smartphone video capture. We're hoping that by using open access softwares and simple capture, such as using a smartphone, that the students will actually use these skills in their professional work, rather than simply following step-by-step instructions on how to use a high-tech motion capture system and not really grasping the underlying concepts or being able to apply it later on in their lives. So this is an example of what the Canovia software looks like, and a potential real-life example of its use. It can be used to track objects or joints, to measure displacements, joint angles, and so on. It may be a bit more rudimentary compared to the 3D motion capture, but it also requires abundantly less equipment and setup, and doesn't require the faculty member to have expensive setup like Vicon or Neuraxon to be able to run kinematics labs at their site. So this is an example of tracking bar path in a jerk movement. Someone could easily also have it track the bar velocity or things like hip, knee, ankle, or shoulder range of motion. But having these skill sets could also easily translate into sport coaching, rehabilitation, or training settings, depending on what the students move into. We think that by having these labs be more user-friendly, it allows the students to see the applicability into using these skills in their future professions. And typically, because biomechanics labs require high-tech, confusing equipment, that tends to deter students from wanting to learn and understand, rather than just following the instructions to get the report done. Even though more high-tech equipment may be what they use later on professionally, or if they decide to go on into a master's program, being thrust into that software and equipment with no time to actually learn how it works may turn them off of that idea.
Super. Well, thanks for the explanation. Just to wrap us all up, like I said, we're going to roll this out in our existing biomechanics course. It's a third-year course, and we'll be ready to launch hopefully this fall. And then depending on where we end up, we may also see this in a future introductory course. For me, certainly, I think one of the biggest benefits of working on this project was becoming more familiar with open access and really understanding the strengths of incorporating those tools. In this project, that allowed us to make sure that all of the experiential learning that we were doing involved things that students would actually be using or available to use when they left, which is, like I said, a pretty big challenge in our area. The textbook with the labs bundled into it saves our students a good amount of money each time they take the course, which is kind of nice. And then by virtue of the wide availability of either the simple smartphones or open access software, it gives us a lot of flexibility in how we run this experiential learning. We can do it sort of in person as part of a traditional lab, or we can have the option of running it online with some remote delivery. Down the road, in addition to getting ready for launch in this fall semester, high priority is addressing accessibility for us. So making sure not only the activities that we're planning are accessible, but making sure we take advantage of a whole bunch of the great Pressbooks accessibility tools. And in a perfect world, we'd have tons and tons of time to add even more experiential learning content, including some of those sort of traditional biomechanics labs that maybe have a reputation they don't deserve in biomechanics. So I'd just like to finish by saying thanks to everybody that's helped us out with the project. There's a number of folks beyond myself and Alex that contributed to the textbook. And of course, I want to acknowledge the funding from the UW and Campus Manitoba. So thanks so much for listening.
Does anyone have any questions or comments for
Thank you very much. I'm really glad that you didn't make us do that.
There's a reason it's not me on there.
How many students did you have in your class? Like how to make that textbook?
Yeah, so each time our course runs, we get somewhere between 20 and 40. We're pretty lucky for the textbook. I'll say it was way more work than I thought it would be, but thankfully there's a really wonderful open access physics textbook that we were largely able to adapt. And physics and biomechanics kind of share the same language, but have different areas. So if we had to develop it on our own, I'd probably be wrapped up maybe by the end of my career or something, rather than by the end of the course. So yeah, fortunately, there's some great stuff that gave us a good head start. Yeah. Super.
Great. Thank you so much.
All right.
Our next presenters are Dr. Jenny Storie and Jamie Cameron, and they will be talking about their Norway Multidisciplinary Field Course in Geomatics out of the Geography Department.
Yes. Sorry, that does not belong to this one.
Give me a shout if it's being wonky.
No, I'm just looking for our presentation, that's all.
Okay,
It
it should
is.
be on my desk.
Minimize this? Oh, no, okay.
We stopped the share.
Oh, okay,
I'll cut together here.
yeah. There we go, okay. Desktop. That's why you're here. Wait, it's not open yet? So we need to go to the desktop. Right there. There you go. That's where I was trying to get to. There we go. And then, yeah, Zoom, share. Yeah. Down here. We'll coordinate.
That's the only thing I don't.
See if that worked. There we go. All right, we're good. Technology. So Jamie and I are going to present today. We've done this presentation before with a couple of the other students, but they're employed now, so that's fantastic news. We went to, she's employed as well. Sorry, I should have phrased that. Jamie works at Hydro and is now hiring our current students. So the other ones are in the field, I should put it that way. So Jamie was available, thankfully, for that. So we went to Norway. It was a delayed course due to COVID and things like that. So we spent 2 weeks in Norway doing a field course, specifically a geomatics field course. Field courses are very rapid learning environments, and ours was a multidisciplinary team. Dr. Chris Henry is here, applied computing, because we did some projects related to map automation. Chris Storie is here, my husband, who is also participating. He led the drone application research and things like that. And then we also worked with civil engineers when we were in Norway, which we have a good collaborative research with them. The international collaboration meant that we were in an alpine environment. So we're taking prairie kids to the alpine environment, which was amazing. And then also a different cultural identity with the Norwegian culture. And this particular course was a combination of graduate and undergraduate courses. So their course was a second year, ours was a fourth year. I think this is your final course that you took. And then, and it happened to be that she had to wait 2 years for COVID to finally do a field course. And then we also had the graduate level course within the Masters of Environmental Social Change, I think it's called. We received funding from the ELF fund, which was wonderful. And we also received funding from DQ, which is the Norwegian Education Fund, specifically about supporting internationalization of their students, because they don't tend to go away and they don't tend to go to other universities because they have free education. This is when we arrived at NTNU, which is the university. It's a science and technology university in Gjøvik. It is near Lillehammer. It's across the lake from Lillehammer for those people. Most people haven't heard of Gjøvik. And beautiful sunny day when we arrived, which was wonderful. We did a couple of days there in terms of organization and getting to know each other before we moved on. Here are the collaborators that we worked with. So this is Beta. On this side, sorry, just drew a blank. He is sort of like Chris's complement. He is also a drone and GIS person, and we were mapping a glacier for a ski resort that had covered the surface with synthetic material to protect the snow because they were losing snow too rapidly. In the middle is Rune, who is a glacier and alpine researcher, and we continue to do research with him. And on the right-hand side is Vilma, and Vilma taught our students as well as their students how to use sort of high-tech surveying equipment. So we had a lot of equipment that people were learning how to use that were advanced technologies that these students, especially their students who are engineering type students, would be using in the field. We have a series of lectures usually when we have these field courses. The faculty members that go gave a series of lectures, and it was making sure that all the students that were involved were at the same level of background knowledge so that we could move forward with the projects. And there was student projects as well, student presentations as well during the field course. So they would explain to other people what they were doing, or at the end they would say what they collected for their data and things like that. My students are used to those type of presentations. I'm going to let Jamie talk about the agricultural thing later on. The field projects that we worked on, these are the UW ones. So Jamie was in charge of planning and organizing using different tools and technology, the field data collection that was done to validate a map automation model that was developed by one of Chris Henry's master's students at the time. And then Ryan Shirtliff, he replicated similar methodologies that he was using in his thesis here in Canada in an agricultural zone, but he was doing the same thing in a alpine, different type of vegetation zone to look for universals in terms of how he could plan data collection. And then finally, Leah Hicks, who was a graduate here, but now it is at U of M. She used thermal imagery to look for the detection of glaciers. This was her first experience using this technology, and she's employed now starting, I think actually 2 days ago, using this technology in a helicopter. She's going and helping firefighters that are putting out forest fires, and her job is from the helicopter to make sure those forest fires are out, or is there underlying embers, heat signatures underneath. So this is the first time she used it, and this is what she's doing for the summer, is riding around in a helicopter, and super excited. This was our home for the field course. It was absolutely amazing. Yeah, you can't do it justice. This is a family resort area that people go to, but about mid-August, kids go back to school in Norway. So it's available then for researchers. So there were school groups and there was research groups that existed here. About 20 minutes away from the closest town, and this is the only thing that exists there. So this is the dining room. It's an amazing architectural gem that basically they use a lot of these tree trunks to design and stuff like that. And it was made architectural magazines and stuff. We had our breakfasts and dinners there, met different research groups there. And then we also packed our lunch, went out in the field and stuff like that. Oops. I'm going to be brief on this, but we do face challenges when we're in another country, when we're doing field courses. Calibration of instruments, they don't always work when you expect them to. They worked yesterday, they don't work today. We had low cloud ceiling, so we couldn't acquire drone data until the cloud ceiling disappeared, which is around noon hour. We had students that arrived and after a couple of days were sick with the flu, not COVID, and but still had to muscle through it and things like that. They took their time and rested when they could, and they slept and everything like that. But it was also, they understood that this brief period of time meant that you just had to keep going. And then we also often waited for GPS signal. We were in the Northern Hemisphere, we're at 62 degrees north, and most of the satellites exist in the south of that location, and you don't always get access to signal. So you sometimes wait around for these things. This particular one is Leah, and then there's Jamie over there. So they had to hike into a glacier, which is about 4 kilometers. And then after hiking into the glacier for the day, they collected their data. But when they went to go get out again, it was a beautiful sunny day. It was August, the glacier was melting. They had an ephemeral river that they now had to portage across to get home again, which was a bit of a challenge.
Got a little wet.
But they came away, they were working with Runa, and Runa was so impressed with the girls in terms of smiling all the time, enjoying what they were doing, all that other stuff. He said not all students were like that in these conditions. How is that? We also had relief. We're in an alpine environment. And so in this particular project, the Norwegian students were mapping a tree line location. Like I said, the GPS and the satellite data were challenging to get. So being able to map these type of things with the drone was important. We would drive to the top of this hill. They would do a transect down, and then we drive them back around, and then they transect down again, so they didn't have to start going up and down the hill, which was a relief. It was still a challenging environment.
The shrubs were also like this high. So like you'd be like stepping and like trying to get through. So that was, we didn't want to walk. It was a lot.
Yes. They got a lot of exercise, fresh air and exercise. The next stage of this, I'm going to let Jamie talk about, which are the additional, not like educational, but not formal in terms of the field course component.
Yeah, so I'll talk about that. We went to an agriculture place, a few climate parks and museums, and then a glacier geology like fun site. So when we were first there, we got to go to this agriculture center, which was one of their like oldest agriculture centers in Norway. And it was really cool. I got to take my first data point there in that field, my agriculture point. And it was cool for us because we got to learn what they did with the drones and detecting like agriculture fields. And so yeah, that one was good. They were all good. I don't know why I said that one was good. Another really cool thing we got to do was go to this climate park, and it was based around an ice patch. And what's really cool about the ice patches, it's not cool that they're melting, but as they're melting, a lot of their old artifacts are coming out. So you can see there's a boot there on the screen that was 3,400 years old. So they're all coming out like perfectly preserved. So even though it's sad that they're melting, they're getting a lot of history. At this climate park, there's actually an ice tunnel into the ice patch, so we got to go through there and see it, and it was really cool. I thought it was amazing because it was designed around Norse mythology, so they had the tree of life, and then it was like kind of like a circular, the different gods that they had, each god like had kind of like a different room and stuff, so that was really cool to see.
The snake of Loki.
Yeah, the snake of Loki, they had one. There was I got to go through a slide. No one else would go through.
So this was cut into the glacier patch.
Yeah.
So it's a version of the glacier. Yeah.
And then in addition to that, we got to go to the climate museum where they had a lot of these artifacts. So you can see the old Viking like swords and weapons that they used. And we learned a lot about like their traditions and stuff. Also, the climate museum had a lot about hiking history through the mountains, so that was really cool. Obviously, the woolly mammoths too. Sorry, it's an embarrassing picture.
You put it in.
Well, not for this, but yeah. One of the other really cool things where this climate museum was in Loam, and there was this really old church that was built in the 1160s. It was part of the St. Olaf's pilgrimage. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and it was really cool to see how old it was and just to still be able to like see the details. It was really cool. And then another fun site was it translates to hell. I guess there's like they had bad connotations with it. I don't know, that's
any place that in Norway and other Scandinavian countries that you didn't feel safe, they were nicknamed a place called hell. So this is not the only hell that exists. So this is a common thing in Iceland and here. Yeah.
So these are really cool. I love them. They're called glacier potholes, also known as like giant kettles. And basically what happened was when all of the big glaciers were melting there was a river that went this way, and all of the glacier debris would carve out these like tunnels, like the very circular stuff. And apparently these ones only took 2 years to create. And then there was a deposit at like the beginning of this valley, and the river got rerouted, and that's why you can see them so well. So that was really cool. I still don't, they told us it took 2 years. I don't believe that took 2 years, but I don't know. And then my really big takeaway from the whole trip was I got to wander around a lot and just experience the nature, because my project, I was just collecting data points for validation. So I would just go like, oh, today I need to go and find some forest. So I just walk out in a random direction and go and find some forest. And I really enjoyed that, to just be very calm and nonchalant about my data collection.
It was opportunistic.
Yes, exactly. These next few slides are from Tyler, one of the other students who came on, and so these are some of his takeaway points, but he said this was a good opportunity because traveling is so expensive that to be able to go and get this experience and just maximize a lot of those opportunities. These are some shared stuff that's like not so obvious. When you go on these big like learning experiences and stuff, it's a very hands-on learning experience, and it builds your confidence a lot to be like, oh, I can do this stuff. And also you build relationships with people, and you can also, you're a part of so many different projects that you learn that there's so much other stuff that you could be interested in. Another big thing was that he said is that you can fail safely in these environments. So like if you mess up, it's not a huge, like, oh, there's a lot of people around you to help out. Especially like this was my first travel experience, so I was really nervous. But then after doing it, I'm like, oh, this is great.
She just
I can
got
do
back
this
from another
again.
trip.
Exactly. And then yeah, those are overall takeaways. I don't know if you wanted to say anything.
The other thing is in terms of skill sets for work development and things like that, that was the sort of like the obvious thing. But the other thing was that the students, the undergraduate students working with graduate students, got to see how the planning of a project occurred and how these different tasks contribute to a master's thesis. And Tyler, although he wants to work for a little while and things like that, he's got a partner that basically said, yeah, you got to pull your weight, you know, after being in uni for a while. He's actually contemplating doing a master's now, not being aware before of the opportunities. And he has a stronger sense of, I can do this. And so that was another wonderful thing that came out of it. One more. Yeah. And that's it. At the end, sunshine, smiles, and a lot of really good times. So yeah, that's it for us.
That's amazing. Questions?
Yeah, any questions?
Would you do it again?
Yeah.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, I do it again. It was good.
Yeah.
I have simply a comment, Jamie. I love that idea of being able to fail safely.
Yeah.
When you look at standard courses and you start getting grades, have another way of learning where it's in scare codes and not to fail.
Yeah.
To learn, which is how we learn.
Yeah, and there was a lot of opportunities where, like this trip, you go out like I think Leah's plan, like to detect like the glacier edge, it changed like 3 times while we were there. So it was like constant learning experience and trying to figure stuff out. And oh, that's not going to work. Is this going to work? And so it was really good.
And really making sure the students understood that it was about the process and not about the final outcome. It wasn't about publications or anything like that. It was about them learning through this process and how to make better decisions in the future, that type of thing. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Up next, we have Dr. Roland Bohr, who's going to speak on his field course on material culture in Indigenous history. Let's get up the PowerPoint here. Yeah, there you are. Is it still? Maybe it's going to take a sec.
Put the share.
Let me just see if I can maybe just close this one up and see if it does anything. I think I chose the correct one. Yeah, now we're good. All right.
I'll do it for the next slide.
It's just like,
Oh,
yeah, to advance. All right, I go. Good.
Well, thank you. Good afternoon. Thanks for having me. I'm Dr. Roland Bohr. I'm with the history department. I teach Indigenous history here at the University of Winnipeg. I wanted to thank also the Experiential Learning Fund for supporting my field course since its inception in 2016. And I would also like to thank my previous presenters for the land acknowledgement, which of course is very appropriate for a course like this, which is land-based and about Indigenous history. I would like to tell you first how this course came about. My research, among other things, focuses on Indigenous material culture, especially Indigenous people's use of hunting and combat weapons. And that includes manufacturing reproductions of these items and testing them out, comparing them to surviving examples in museums, learning from Indigenous elders, oral history accounts, to see how these stack up against accounts from ethnographic literature or fur trade journals and so forth. And in that context, I usually take my students in my regular history courses to archery ranges here around Winnipeg, so they can try out some of these bows and arrows, for example. And in that context, they often asked whether they could not learn how to make their own. And that got me thinking, and connecting with friends of ours who have a bison ranch near Riding Mountain Park in southwestern Manitoba, and who are also educators in their own right, trying to promote Indigenous culture and history in the Brandon, Portage La Prairie area. That family is of mixed descent, Anishinaabe and Swiss. And so we created this course, which was originally designed for the Winnipeg Education Center. They needed a 4,000 level half course. But then through various scheduling mishaps, it turned out the WAC students couldn't actually take it, so we moved it to main campus, and that's where it still is. So I will show you what happens in this course, what has happened in this course. So this is mostly from 2017, but it's still pretty much like this, minus the interruption during the pandemic, of course, when the course couldn't run. Okay, so here we go. This is in-class time at the University of Winnipeg. Students have to complete various writing assignments. They have to do a research project and submit a research proposal early on in the course, but they also learn hands-on about some of the traditional embroidery methods that were and are being done here. For example, beadwork taught by Janine Crouchy, who is a Métis artist here in Winnipeg. Some of you may have seen her 9-meter-long octopus back at the Museum of Human Rights. That's her. So she's teaching the students beadwork. And then after 5 days of classes here, 3-hour seminars, we move out to the Anpo Bison Ranch near Rossburn, Manitoba. That's what it looks like. Some impressions from the ranch. Students also learn how to set up a teepee. The ranchers, Sabrina Schlupp and Tom Schlupp, they usually show how to do it, preferably with the help of an inexperienced student. And they're usually able to set it up in under 20 minutes. I think 17 was the best they clocked. If you take more than half an hour to set up a teepee, you're not doing it right. So that's what they're designed for. And that's what students see, how sophisticated Indigenous material culture was at the time, in pre-Confederation times, and what it could do, also in terms of mobility. So that's setting up a teepee. That's our camp. Students bring their own tents. As you can see here, in between the two teepees, there are some modern tents. The teepees themselves serve as indoor gathering spaces. When it's too hot or when it's raining, we can work inside there. There's a cooking tent. This is where the campsite is located. It's situated between 3 little ponds or lakes, so prime breeding grounds for mosquitoes and ticks. So if you time it right, you get both. So, and then students are also learning tanning hides, anything from deer to elk to moose. And one of the unexpected things that came out of this was that they would just spontaneously team up in groups of 2 and start working on this hide. And keep in mind, this is summer, it's hot, right? So they would go full tilt for 20 or 30 minutes and then would hand their tools over to the next group, so that first, it wouldn't feel like labor camp, and second, the hide would get worked on with the same intensity all the time, which is really hard to do if you do this by yourself or just with another person. And as the students told me later, this would also give them opportunity to talk, to chat about their lives, about their kids. And in this year, 2017, it so happened that all the students were Indigenous. It wasn't planned that way, but that's the way it happened. And they began to realize that, you know, that's probably what Indigenous women have been doing for the last few millennia around here, tanning hides and talking about their families and their lives. Right? And they got it done as a team. Yeah, this is really physically strenuous labor. They also learned how to make their own bows. We start with a split log and then split that into boards and into bow staves, and eventually they learn how to reduce the thickness so that it will bend and take an arrow. Here are students working with their rasps and draw knives. I let them use metal tools, pretty similar to what would have been available during the fur trade era, simply because if we wanted to use stone tools, we would have to set this course up totally different. We would have to do it in winter, because then you have to work green wood. You know, you can't work seasoned wood with stone tools very well. And I don't want to camp out there in February. I just don't. So that's why they do it this way. It's also safer. So there they are, draw knifing away at their bow staves. And they occasionally check the bend of their bows and eventually get to try them out. And this is really something that surprised me the first time, as well as the students, you know, to see their faces light up when they're actually launching an arrow from a bow that they have made. And they realize not only did they make this, but this actually works. And their ancestors probably did the same thing in the same spot for a very long time, right? So as other presenters pointed out, this is also something that enhances confidence in general, but hopefully probably also with writing term papers, because if you can make a bow, you can do a book review. Right, and so we actually caught the arrow in flight, the student shooting down range. And there they are with their products, a tanned hide, a really, really old style war club, and a lot of bows and arrows that they made. Here are also some of the bison. While they're at the ranch, they have to write reflection papers that tie together their experiences at the ranch with the course readings I make them go through. So there's a lot about bison behavior and so forth, bison hunting in there. At the site, at the ranch, there is an old buffalo pound that was used to drive bison into by local Indigenous people to hunt them or harvest them. And so they get to see that as well. And there they are with the bison in the background. And then the ranchers, Sabrina and Tom Schlupp here on the left-hand side, they are our hosts. The center person is Maureen Tuvois. She used to be a student. She took the first iteration of the field course and is now the education liaison for her home community of Webisakapo First Nation. And then the other two people are students and volunteers here from University of Winnipeg who helped out with the first version of the course. And that is it. Thank you for listening.
How many times have you been able to run the course since 2017?
Well, 16, 17, 18, and then last year, so 4. This will be the 5th time this year.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Anyone else have any questions or comments for Dr. Moore?
Oh, I brought these along. This is sort of along the
wow.
lines of what the students will be making. So you can have a look at these arrows. And
That's very cool. Thank you for bringing this to share with everyone. All right. Thank you so much. Our final presenters for the colloquium are Dr. Andrew McGillivray, Alina Moore, and Sarah London, talking about the writing internship course out of the rhetoric department.
Wow.
We're meeting at 2:30. Would you put that on that?
before your presentation, or can I walk out?
If you can stay as long as you can,
Okay,
please.
That would be
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It was great to receive the invitation, and I asked Sarah London and Alina Moore to come and provide accounts of their experience with the writing internship. Just very briefly give a tiny history of the course, how it was generated. Well, the course was on the books actually, so it wasn't like Patricia's where you developed an experimental course, but this course was on the books. And I looked it up, I think from 2010. Tracy might know the history more than I do. And I started working here in 2016, and the course hadn't been offered during my time here. Then a student approached me in February of 2019, said, "We got this course. Do you think we can do it?" And so it built slowly like that, being offered just one at a time, kind of like a directed readings course, just with individual supervision. And then in 2020, we started planning to offer it as a cohort with 10. And we were able to offer it as a group of 10 in 2021, another group of 10 in 2022, and then now we have a group of 10 for 2023. And it always fills up, and there's always a waiting list of students who wish they could get on, and I invite them to show interest in the course for the following year. So this is a course that's really in high demand in our department. Maybe we'll find out a bit why. So I'll pass it over to Sarah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I found out about the internship course through another rhetoric student. I knew immediately I wanted to do it, and I knew immediately where I wanted to work. So I contacted Andy, and I told him I wanted to do the course, and I wanted to do it with Argyle, which is a marketing and PR firm. And luckily there were some connections. Niala used to work there, and Andy's partner used to work there, and they've hired rhetoric grads in the past. So I reached out, or I was connected with them, and then the connection that really secured it was that my dog knew the vice president's dog, and so locked it in. And then I was able to spend 2 weeks working and helping support a pro bono project that Argyle was doing for Sugar Rush for Veg Fest, which also has connections to the university. And I got to basically do exactly what I would have been doing if I was employed there as kind of an entry-level PR consultant. So I was coordinating, I was writing press releases, I was coordinating advertisements with radio, I was planning, scheduling social media posts. I got to do a range of activities. And the great thing about the rhetoric internship is you get to reflect on what you're doing too, not just do it. And it was through that reflection where I was able to realize that although I was still interested in the company and the people that I was getting to meet, I would not want to do that job. So, which is good, because as someone early in my career, learning what I don't want to do is just as valuable to me as learning what I do want to do. But a month later, they reached out to me after the internship and said, "Hey, Sarah, we'd like to discuss a position with you." And I said, "Okay, I'll hear about it." And the position was to be a writer on their creative team, which was much more aligned with what I thought I might enjoy doing. And I've been there for 2 years, and it's been amazing. I've gotten to write for so many cool brands and initiatives, and now we're actually a new company because we merged with 6 other marketing companies, and it's now the largest marketing agency in Canada. And the dragon from Dragon's Den, Arlene Dickinson, is now my boss. So it all happened because of the internship. Yeah.
Yeah, so I kind of had a similar experience. I heard about the internship through a classmate who had taken it before. So I reached out to Andy, who then connected me with Niala, and we just kind of discussed like what sort of placement I was looking for. And I've always been really interested in the publishing industry. So we ended up finding me an internship with the University of Manitoba Press. And through them, I basically, they just showed me like an overview of an operations of like an academic press. So it was like from the production and marketing. And I got like a little taste of like kind of each sector of the press. One of my favorite parts was I actually got to work on a manuscript that was like in progress. So this was during the pandemic, so I did it all from home. I never went to the office, but they sent me a copy of the manuscript, and then they also sent me the edits that had been made by their editors, and I got to combine those and then like send it to them. So that was kind of like my big project for working with them, and it was a really great experience. Yeah, so yeah, I don't know. Now, like they did have a position that opened up after, but I didn't end up working with them. But I do get to continue within the industry and like transfer the skills that I learned with them. And it kind of taught me like what sector of the publishing industry I was interested in like furthering my career with. So yeah, now I'm working at Portage and Main Press through like a contract position, which I'm hoping will lead to something in the future. And yeah, so I'm really grateful to the experiential one. They also helped cover our, like through an honorarium, cover the cost of the course, which was a little bit tricky because taking classes during a pandemic can be, a little tight on money. So yeah, I'm really grateful for the experience and for everything I learned with the companies.
I'll just like close out by saying that like there's a direct link for us being able to offer this course with Nyala coming into this position and arranging these internships. Like it has been incredible to have that support, and it's made it possible. This morning before coming here, I just put together a list of the places that Nyala's helped our students gain experience with, and some of our students who have also helped create opportunities as well, even some grads. So it's kind of it's amazing to look at that list and see where some of our students are going and then what they're doing after they graduate. So thanks to the fund and to Nyala in particular.
Awesome. No, I'm super glad. Areas of the industry you did connect with and what might not be for you, just having the opportunity to explore that a little bit. I'm glad that it worked out for you.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Did anybody have any quick questions or comments for the team? Great.
I would just say it was so great to see you again on the next staff. Because I know I think are so well suited to this position. I think you will.
I feel like, yeah, this course was a fun one for me because I did have some connections in various sectors of the industry, so I was able to kind of match students based on what they were interested in. So thank you, Andy, for linking up with me on this. For staying till the end.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. Yeah, I guess that's the time. Just wanted to thank all our presenters for taking the time to share all of these wonderful initiatives with us. And they've all, clearly been worthwhile and interesting. And I just wanted to thank the attendees here who also served on the vetting committee for the next round of projects. And I'm excited to show those to you next year and we can all meet again. So thank you. Everyone have a lovely day.